You ready to share the story?
Yeah, the Rebel origin story.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Well, it wasn't always Rebel.
No, it
Didn't
was
start
not always Rebel.
Didn't start out as Rebel. But it started out with some chickens.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the name back then?
We first started, the name of Rebel was BA Pastures, and it stood for
Badass. But
everyone didn't. Nobody got it.
Is it BA for Bajmo?
Or BA Ba, like sheep. And we didn't even have sheep at the time.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we missed the mark on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So we rebranded.
Yeah.
Same company, just a different name, right?
Yeah. But so we started back in 2019. We had just built a house on some property, and I'd always planned on getting some chickens. That was just, grew up on a homestead and wanted to get some chickens. So we went out that year. We built our house, got our yard ready, went into the winter, and then next year was 2020.
March 2020.
Yeah, 2020, and we, just like everywhere else in the country, we hit this enormous thing happened in our country.
Yeah. What's the name? COVID. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, we couldn't leave. We couldn't leave our house. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't travel.
In Michigan, we couldn't even go on a pontoon boat out in the middle of the lake.
Yes. Our playgrounds were taped off with caution tape. And then you started going into the grocery stores, and there was no food on the shelves. Mm-hmm. There was no chicken. There was no beef. There was no food. There was no toilet paper. And we all experienced that. And about that time was when we started researching more about where our food is coming from.
Yeah, I thought you're just gonna build chickens, but that quickly morphed. I think first year we did 300 meat chickens on pasture.
Yeah, we got 50. We were gonna get 50 meat chickens, and I thought one per month for our family. That'd be all that we would need. We started learning about how to raise them, so we knew we were gonna do pasture raised chickens. We used the Salatin tractor. We built one, and then our family and friends started wanting chickens. Mm-hmm. They experienced the same thing where they couldn't get meat at the grocery store. It brought light a lot to our food supply and the supply chain and how animals are raised and slaughtered and all those things. So we ended up doing 300 that year. We just kept getting 50 more and then 50 more, and then until we ended up doing 300. Went into that fall, and it was crazy. It was like, what are we doing? Like, is this?
I remember we looked at each other like, what are we doing? And if we're really doing this, we're really going to do this.
Yeah.
And so the problem to date was the food system. What we saw, during 2020, what unfolded was that our system was a very lean, engineered food production system in America, where food is produced just in time, kind of like a just-in-time manufacturing system. Well, that's great when everything is running on all 8 cylinders. Well, during COVID, things started to go sideways. And so once there was one cog in the wheel, it affected the whole system, the whole supply chain. And that's why farmers back then were having to euthanize animals at scale. Meat packers were closed down. It was a crazy time.
Yeah, it really showed the fragility of the food system.
Yeah, it was highly engineered, but it was not resilient.
Right.
And I think that's what we really saw. And that's what really draws to regenerative ag is a resilient system. Resilience in the fact of Mother Nature, of how we raise animals, having resilient animals who aren't dependent upon drugs and antibiotics to keep them alive, because they're actually resilient. Like, in that word resilient is going to come up. And the more that we learned about it, once I learned something, I can't just turn it off and forget it. So as we started to go down that path, we started to learn more, discover more. It was appalling. It was appalling the way that our food is raised in this country. It's mass produced, ethically questionable.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's hidden from us. It's hidden behind labels. It's hidden behind gag laws. It's hidden behind, fancy marketing. We don't really truly see the way that our food is raised.
By design.
By design.
So what people see when they go to the grocery store, they see labels, right? And I remember the first year we raised the 300 chickens, and I think we wanted to put something on the label like
Fresh air.
fresh air, raised on pasture. And they're like, do you have a USDA claim? You can't say that on the label.
We could put fresh air on our labels.
Fresh air, imagine that.
Yeah.
And so then he said, ask like, well, why? So anyway, you go to the store and you see these labels, or you see this packaging, and you see, the sun up in the corner, a couple clouds, beautiful sky, green grass with a red barn, and a cow. The reality is, that's bullshit. The reality is that animal's in a feedlot.
Right.
On concrete or dirt, no grass, or it's grown in a raising barn where they fit 100,000 chickens inside of it, or a hog barn where those hogs are living on top of a cesspool of their own feces and urine.
Right.
That's what they're breathing.
So let's go back to where we're at. So raise that 300 the first year. So we get into that winter, and we could look at each other and we're like, all right, are we gonna do this or what? And we saw the writing on the wall. We saw the rise in illness in our country. We saw what was happening with the children in our country, with the youth, and getting addicted to screens and not knowing how to create value and feeling entitled. And we thought, like, we have to do something different. Otherwise our kids are going to go down that same path. And we committed to the next year to raising 3,600 meat chickens on pasture.
Yeah, didn't know how we were gonna do it at the time.
No, we bought these huge schooners. They're like tents. We built those out all through winter and into the spring. And then we had to have this crazy plan to be able to get chicks and brood them and then get them into the schooners and pull the schooners. And then we would take 300 chickens every week into the processor.
That was exhausting. Those were long days. You and I think we're dropping chickens off at midnight, coming home, and yeah, those were definitely long days.
That was a hard summer. That was a lot of work that summer. And that was a summer is just you and I doing all that and our kids. But
your mom and dad definitely helped.
Yeah. And so after that we were very fully committed, and that was also the summer we changed our brand to Rebel Pastures. We started doing farmers markets. So we were doing farmers market every single weekend, May through October. We started out with just selling chicken there.
Yeah, at one time we thought we were just gonna be chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken only.
Yeah. We thought we were just selling chicken. And then that fall we started a annual thing that we did as a family, and we went and we traveled across the country, and we did this big road trip where we went from Virginia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and we visited farms in every one of those countries or every one of those states, and learned from them. We on that trip we visited polyface farms, and we went to White Oak Pastures, and I remember being down at White Oak, and we had talked to him about only doing chickens, and it made us realize, watching the way his farm all worked together, that we needed to do more than chickens. And
it's all Bill's fault.
I know, you asked him a question about how many cattle we could raise on our property. Do you remember what he said?
He probably said it depends. Like the land dictates.
That's exactly what he said. The land dictates. Yeah. So from there we came home with just a whole new.
I remember when we went to Joel Salatin's farm, Polyface. I was all about chickens. I wanted to learn how to raise the best pasture raised chickens in the country on pasture. We move our chickens every single day, legitimately. They're moved every single day. Even our partner farms that raise them for us, they're raised the same way. We will never compromise with our partner farms in that regards at all. We'll not do it. But I remember going to Polyface, and then the woman that was giving us a tour, she wanted to go talk about the cattle, and I'm like, I don't want to care about the cattle. It was not even on my radar for cattle. And then on that trip later, we went down to White Oak Pastures and spent the day with Will Harris, which has been an awesome mentor of ours, and that really opened our eyes. That changed. That one stop probably changed the trajectory of Rebel completely.
Yep. So then the next year we did chickens again, and then we did
hogs.
Hogs were the next animal that we put on the farm.
We raised hogs out back here, out in the woods.
Yep. And then we also got sheep that year.
Yep. And we raised them out here too.
Yeah. And that was when we only had the land that we're on currently.
It must have been that fall when we got our first batch of cattle.
Yeah. I think it was late October when we got them.
because it was after we visited with Will, we're like, we're gonna need more land.
Mm-hmm.
And we found there was a piece of there's a old farm field, old cornfield that I'd seen for sale, and I was like, I don't know what we do with 75 acres.
But I do remember it was before we went on our farm tour that year. Because I remember we had to leave the cattle for a farm tour.
Hmm.
So then we went on another farm tour and we visited farms again that fall. And so by the time we were done with that farm tour, we had processed our pigs, processed our sheep, processed our chickens. We had egg layers. We were probably up to 300 at least egg layers at that time. We had our and then we had 10 steers
Mm-hmm.
on the ground at our house.
Had no clue at the time what I was doing.
Yeah. And we also knew at that point that we had already outgrown our land and we needed to expand from there. So, when was it that we bought?
That is our 4th year on new property, so maybe 4 or 5 years. It's all been a blur.
Just kind of blur together a little bit. So we got all those. So we're going into the next year now, and we're raising meat chickens again. I think by the spring we got another 350 layers. So I think we had close to 700 layers at that point.
It's a lot of noisy egg layers.
Yeah. We had pigs again, and then we also doubled our sheep production. We've doubled our sheep production each year that we've raised sheep.
Yeah, and now our herd we're growing our herd. We just preg checked this week, and we'll be continue to grow the herd for cattle.
Yeah.
So where are we going? That's the question, right? And so today for us, we're raising all these animals, and it's a lot of work, right? No doubt about it. Farming's hard work, and we're not asking for anybody's, like sympathy for us or even empathy, but just acknowledge that raising food, there's a lot of risk, a lot of hard work, and it's not a 40-hour week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this more to raise awareness about other farmers than I am even us, but there's so many risks that farmers deal with, from risk of capital to risk of the weather to risk of disease to risk of inability to source, you name it. I mean, there was a time when we couldn't even source the animals during COVID. It was hard to source things. So anyway, a lot of risk, a lot of variables. And what we realized building this out is just that we would not be able to raise everything ourselves to be able to supply the demand of customers. And so I kind of came to this point where, for me, I saw it's like, what would be really cool is to build this network of partner farms that are raising the same way that we are. And we, no kidding, have them sign an agreement. And we know these people that are raising. It's not just like we're buying. Most of your big meat companies online, they're brokering meat. They're brokering from who knows where, somewhere in the country, or even a lot of them are out of the country. Being imported. That's not what we're doing. We're building a network of people that we know, like, and trust, and that are raising the same way. How did we find these people? Well, by going to conferences. We'd go to regenerative conferences, and we're learning about how to utilize the land and soil conferences, and all these people of like minds come together. And so as we've been learning and growing and building out that community, it's like what we saw was the problem that a lot of farmers are having is that raising the animals is a full-time endeavor of itself, right? That is all consuming.
Yeah.
And then to ask them to go market and sell that product and ship that product, store that product, that's a whole nother business. And what we saw was an opportunity for us to leverage our skills and our abilities. And when we started this, what did we say? We said what we really are is an educational company. We wanted to educate people about the truth of how food is raised in this country, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Intentional smoke and mirrors. Big conglomerates, they can easily go to the lobbyists and encourage them to create new regulation that's always passed in the name of protecting the consumer. These legislation pieces are always, this new regulation, this new law, this new requirement, it's always in the name of protecting the consumer. I think that's been completely twisted and manipulated. Number one, I think consumers are smart enough to find truth themselves. I don't think we need all these regulations. But more importantly, number two, and this is the real reason, it's anti-competitive behaviors by the big monopolies. Mm-hmm. When you create these regulations and rules and guidelines, and protocols that someone has to follow, it's easy for a huge conglomerate to hire one more person and have them check all the forms and all the boxes. Oh, you're organic, you're this, and da, 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 da. But the small guy doesn't have time to do it.
Right.
He's exhausted. He and she is exhausted. They've been out in the field all day long.
Yeah.
Not to
mention it's confusing. It's confusing, and it's a huge burden on them. Yeah. We hear about that. We hear that from our partner farms quite a bit. So on top of raising the animal, they have to make sure they follow all the regulations. They have to have an entire marketing team. If you're selling direct to consumer, you have to have an entire marketing team. You have to market. You have to do emails and social media and website, and it's
it
a
takes
lot.
a lot.
Yes, and then you're also a warehouse where you're storing, fulfilling shipping orders.
Logistics, yeah.
Yeah.
Customer service support. There's definitely a lot of moving pieces, and I think it's actually one of the things that I do enjoy is just bringing all the pieces together. I enjoy that, and so what we saw is that we had an ability to help other farms, and we also realized going back to 2020 that if you and I were just raising all the products on our own farm,
Yeah.
if something happened there, we're not resilient. And that whole food production system would come crashing down. So what we've really created is an alternative food production system in America today.
Yeah, that's more resilient. It's more resilient that is full of encompasses small farms.
Bingo, right there.
Yeah.
None of our partner farms are huge farms. They're not.
Yeah.
They're small farms, but they give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
The number one requirement for us, like raising it all like the right way, regeneratively, rotational grazing, adaptive grazing, the stuff's really, really important. But what it really comes down to is giving a damn.
Right.
Because when you give a damn about the end product, when you give a damn about your customer, when you give a damn about the animals, when you give a damn about the farm, you do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You make the choices that are best for all those things.
Yeah, and this is not like a quarter to quarter financial, public markets. This is like a long-term game.
Yeah.
Like for us, when we're out there feeding bale grazing to our cattle in the wintertime, like we're playing a multi-year approach. Like we're looking to heal that land. That land's been berated for 30 years. It's been exploited. In farming today, I want to be careful how I say this, but we have such a highly engineered system. It's a mass extrapolation. We're taking the maximum out with a minimum in. And what's left? It's not much left after that.
It's showing in the nutrition of our food. It's showing
how it's been depleted.
It's showing in the way that we can't overcome disease in our bodies.
Inflammation in our bodies,
and
omega-3s, omega-6s.
And it's shown in the amount of food that our land is producing every year. How that's also going down.
Yeah, it takes 100 years to create 1 inch of topsoil.
Mm-hmm.
Mother Nature's way. 100 years to create 1 inch. And when we go disc up a field in the springtime and then windstorm comes through,
right,
that's problematic. We can't continue to farm this way, the conventional way. It's making us sick.
One thing that we've really focused on over the last, I think it's been longer than probably what we've even realized is we've several of our partner farms are veterans, and I think there's a lot to that. Why that is the way that it is. They're people that work really hard. They have the grit and the determination. They already are rooted in service, and they give a damn. They give a damn probably more than any other people that we know. So talk a little bit more about that side of it and why.
Yeah. So my background, I served a little over 4 years in the United States Marine Corps from 2001 to 2005. Served 2 tours in Iraq. I was blown up in Iraq as well. And so I understand the veteran community. I understand that act of service, the love of your country, the love of your fellow American. Those are really important things. And I think it's a huge honor for me personally to be able to serve people with food. Food brings people together. Food unites people. We all need to eat. Breaking bread together has a long history of bringing people together. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And who better to farm and to grow food and to serve people what a healing proposition that is.
In more than one way. I mean, I think for me it's healing. Being out on the land, like walk through the pastures, seeing the seeing the changes that's happening in our land as each year it gets better and better and better and better with our farming practices. We're not extrapolating from the land. We're not extracting out resources. We're building it back up. We're building up fertility. We're building up resiliency. We're building up, variety of plants and species, and that's really exciting and fulfilling.
How has it helped you as a veteran?
So I think it's very important for me, and I know a lot of other veterans. Having a purpose bigger than ourselves is really important. I think for all of humanity. I think where depression comes from is when we don't have a purpose. And I can talk to depression because I went through depression coming back from the war in Iraq. That was a depressing time for me, trying to make sense of all that. So when there's a purpose bigger than yourself, the focus is outward. It's external. It's not internal. When we focus on ourselves too much, when I focus on myself too much, you get stuck in your head and you think it's all about you. And the world's not about us. And quite honestly, the world doesn't give two shits about Justin. They don't. And I'm okay with that. And I don't need that. I don't need the world looking at me. I want to make an impact. I want a purpose bigger than myself. I want a purpose bigger than our family. I want a purpose that's worth living for. I think life, for me, I want to add more, create more value than what I've received during my lifetime. That's what's in it for me. And I think that mission resonates with a lot of veterans. And I think it's important. I think it's healing for the veteran. I think it's important for our communities. I think it heals our food system that we're talking about. I think it heals families. If we don't have, if warfighters don't have a mission, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you bring your service into your everyday life at Rebel?
How do I bring my service to everyday life at Rebel? Intensity. you know, when you know what the objective is, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna seek it out, and it doesn't mean I know what to do, but it means I'm determined to find out what we need to do to make that work. When we started Rebel, we didn't know really the path forward. We just started doing things. We started putting stuff out there. We started feeding people, getting feedback from people about how our chicken actually tastes like chicken. It's like, well, yeah, our chicken's awesome. It is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All of our products out there are awesome, because they're raised differently. Our animals aren't just barely kept alive. Our animals thrive the way that we farm, outdoors, not inside barns, fresh air, fresh pasture, sunshine, very, 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 very little inputs, meaning treatments, drugs. The only time that we treat an animal is if that animal is sick and gonna die. It's the only time we treat an animal.
Yeah. So I think we should address why it's called Rebel Pastures. Where does that come from? What does that mean to us?
Well, going back to my military time, I was sitting in the hospital room. I had 8 surgeries on my body, on my lower legs from getting blown up. So I had a lot of time in the hospital. And I spent laying there in bed, asking myself, what was this war in Iraq for? And it didn't make sense. I couldn't come to any conclusions. There weren't any mass weapons of destruction. There was no imminent terrorist threat against the United States of America. They weren't going to fly planes into another building. That wasn't even Iraq. The only thing I could come up with is that it came down to 3 things. And those 3 things are money, power, and control. Who stands to benefit? Follow the money. Follow the power. So, what does Rebel Pastures mean? It means we're rebelling against the bigs. Why? Because it's my belief that the bigs don't serve our best interests as a society. They serve their best interests. They might serve their shareholders' best interests, which as a public company, if they are public, that is their number one obligation, shareholder value. But what does that do to our farmlands? What does that do to our food system, to our animals, to Americans' health? I mean, we are the wealthiest nation in the world and quite possibly the sickest. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, that's where the rebellion started. This isn't a rebellion against our government, but this is a rebellion against the big conglomerates who don't truly serve what's best for America, best for our communities, best for our families, and best for ourselves.
Yeah.
Our health.
Yeah. So what's the end game for Rebel? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? What's the goal, the mission of Rebel for our family?
Legacy? Uh, number, I don't think it's about legacy as much as it is about educating the future generations, right? Like once we start to ask questions, the right questions, we start to find truth. So really, this is about finding truth for me. It's about finding truth for our children so that they can understand how to find truth for their family and pass that on. So legacy, that's what I would want for legacy. That food can heal us. Food can be medicine. Food should be nutritional, should be adding into our bodies, not making us sick. And now we live in a society where so much of our food is highly processed, ultra highly processed, where that's like predominantly what people are eating. And we're inflamed, we're obese, and we're sick as a nation. You can follow that rabbit hole all the way down to national security. If we have, right now, we have a society that we can't fill the military ranks with enough healthy young people in this country to reach the numbers that we need to have a standing army. Think about that. Every branch except for the Marine Corps today is not meeting their recruiting numbers because they're either on some type of long-term medicine, some type of drug, because of obesity, because of fill in the blank health reasons. So what we eat matters. It really matters.
So knowing what you do, knowing what you know now and what your experience in farming and being part of this, what can people do?
I think get involved, ask questions. You have this phrase, know your farmer. Listen, I don't care if people necessarily buy from us or not. I mean, I'd love them to. We'd love to serve them. But that's not the point. The point is that the more people are asking questions about how that food is raised, the more transparency you bring to our food system in America. Yeah. When people are having conversations, here's what I really want. I want people that when they go out to dinner parties or they go out to a friend's house, I want them to have a conversation around food. Where the food came from, how it was raised, talk about the labels if they really mean what they allege to mean. Mm-hmm. Just people, it used to be that you knew where your food came from. It was not that long ago. This is probably before I was born and you were born, but not too long ago, in the last 50, 60 years, people knew the farmer, where they got their milk from, where they got their eggs from, where they got their pigs from, their pork from, beef. They knew the farmer. Today, we go into these huge grocery stores, these supermarkets, and all we see is General Mills and this brand and that brand, and there's no connection to the farmer. So we've lost that connection. So the more that we're asking questions, having conversations, you and I, we throw on pasture walks on our farm to get people out. Why do we do it? It's not a money-making event. I'm sure we're losing money by the time we add up people's wages for helping us get set up and all that kind of stuff. But it's creating awareness. And the more that we put out there, the more people are going to have a conversation about it. Seek that out. Vote with your dollars. Who you purchase from. The argument that we get a lot is that, well, it's so expensive. Actually, it's not expensive. It's that the true cost of real food has been masqueraded by government subsidies, where people don't know what the true cost is anymore. What our problem in America is that we're addicted to cheap food. That's the problem. Actually, you can fill in the blank after cheap with anything. We like things cheap. And as a very wealthy, blessed nation, we've had we have a lot, right? But now we have a lot of crappy food, and we're paying the price for it. And if we don't stop this now, we are going to become a society that is severely sick. The financial cost and obligation to take care of those sick people is going to be astronomical. It's going to weaken our standing as who we are in the world. But that's a real concern to me. So my call to action, ask questions, get involved, do research, look into the claims, find your truth. And maybe your truth is different than my truth, and that's okay. Find your truth. Find what's right for you and your family. That's what I think is really important. Don't just believe what you read on a box, on a label. Go deeper. Go visit a farm. I think one of the coolest things that you and I have been doing over the years, last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been, is getting out and meeting other farmers. Seeing their animals, their land, their love for their land. I think it's really important. I think as a human, I think we need to be more connected to the food source that sustains us. I think it's really important.